Okay, so in this tutorial, I am going to cover how I do the movie poster project. There was a YouTube video that I had posted right here. However, it's using an out-of-date piece of software, so I'm going to go ahead and update that. I know that the directions right here are a little bit confusing, so I'm going to be following these, but I'm also going to be making my own tweaks to this, and I want you to do the same. So don't consider this like a tutorial where you have to follow every single step exactly. This is just kind of how I created mine. You should follow similar steps and make sure that you use the same tools that I do, but feel free to add your own creative spin to this project. So, the first thing that I need to do is I need to download one of my forests. So I'm going to click on, I can either get that one or I can download this one. I'm actually going to download this one right here. So I'll click on the three dots. It's this guy right there. So I'll click on the three dots, open a new window, and hit the download button. Okay, and that goes ahead and downloads for me, and I can close out of that. And now let's go ahead and open that up in Photoshop. So I'll open up Photoshop and I'm going to go File, Open, and I'm going to find in here, let's go to my name, go to Downloads, there it is right there, and let's open it up. Okay, so now that I have that done, I'm going to create actually a couple of copies of this layer, just like they do. The way that I create them is I just drag the background layer down here. So I've created now 3 copies of that one layer. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do is in here, let's just go ahead and turn these off. These are just backup copies right here. I'm going to create a new adjustment layer on this background copy layer. So I go to Layer, New Adjustment Layer, Hue and Saturation. Just go ahead and click OK here. And I'm going to drag my saturation down here. Yeah, that looks pretty good, right about there. Okay, that looks good. So I can close that. Now, if your properties and everything doesn't look right, I would go to Window, Workspace, and then if you just do Reset Essentials, it should pop up very similar windows over here, so yours looks very similar. Okay, so now I'm going to do another new adjustment layer. So I'm going to go to Layers, New Adjustment Layer, Curves, click OK. And now we got our curves panel over here, and I'm going to go ahead and drag this down. I want this to be pretty dark looking, kind of like that. That looks pretty good to me. Maybe a little bit brighter, but not too much. We kind of want this thing to be pretty flat. So that looks pretty good to me, right there. Okay, so I'm going to do one more adjustment layer. So I'm going to go to Layers, New Adjustment Layer, and I want to do let me find it in here. I think color balance. Let's try color balance. Perfect. And then in here, we can kind of like, I'm gonna give this thing like a little bit of a red. You can kind of see I'm like slightly making this a little bit red, maybe a little bit yellow. Alright, that looks pretty good to me. Let's go ahead and with the shadows, maybe I can make it a little bit darker. So I kind of like the red kind of glow in the background right there. Really like that. Same thing with the highlights. There we go. So I'm just messing around with these, kind of giving it a red glow in the background, but I'm going to need to darken this up a little bit too. Okay, so in order to do that, one more of these, layer, new adjustment layer. We're going to go to brightness and contrast, and I'm just going to lower the brightness down on this thing. There we go. So kind of like a red, almost glow, kind of an eerie glow. I don't exactly know what's going on back there. Maybe lower the contrast even. See how when I lower the contrast it fades? Maybe did that a little bit too much. So like I can kind of see my trees in there. But the goal is I don't quite know what's going on back there. It's kind of spooky. There's this red glow. All right, that looks pretty good to me. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do, we can kind of see like the trunks right around there. Some of these are still maybe a little bit brighter. So I'm going to zoom in here. Okay. You can kind of see how that's pretty light. I'm going to use the burn tool to kind of darken these things up. So I'm going to go to the burn tool, which is right here. Midtones, maybe lower my exposure a little bit here. And I just kind of want to be burning this. So notice how I'm going along this. It's darkening. Oh, I need to make sure that I'm on that background layer right there. There we go. It's darkening this up. There we go. So I'm just going to go ahead and darken this trunk up. Okay, that looks pretty good. We don't want this thing to be too light. Alright, so I'm just kind of clicking, click, click, click. It doesn't have to be perfect here. But as we move up the trunk of this tree, I really want this thing to be pretty dark. Kind of this one in the background too. Let's darken this guy up a little bit. There we go. This guy, let's darken him up. Or her. Here we go. We got a trunk of a tree right over here that I kind of want to darken up. There we go. Just really trying to make these stand out a little bit more. There we go. There's a trunk right there. And I think there's a couple trunks over here that I need to do this to. There we go. Just kind of going up and down the trunks of these trees. That one back there, I think I can kind of keep that one looking the way that it is. I don't have to necessarily do all these, but kind of the trunks that are in the foreground here I really want to be much darker. This one's going to be in the foreground, so I'm definitely going to want to darken this guy up. Probably both of these. This guy's, I don't know, not quite in the foreground, but darken it up just a little bit. There we go. Darkening that up. Let's really darken this guy up there. Oh yeah. Yep. There we go. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just clicking. Click and drag, click and drag, click and drag. So you see kind of the trees that I got here. This one's kind of fading. Maybe I want to burn it up. There we go. Same thing with this guy. Let's make sure that I continue the burn all the way. It's really just making the ones that are in the foreground, we really want to be prominent. Here we go. Alright, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now that we have that, we're going to go ahead and create our light source. So I'm going to create a new layer. Come in here, create a new layer. Alright, then I'm going to click on the brush tool over here. Here's my brush tool. And let's make sure the hardness is down. I don't know, gotta be bigger than that. Yeah, maybe something kind of around there. Really, we want a soft brush, so something kind of like that. Alright, there we go. And then we want this to be kind of a blue. I like the red and blue contrast. I got the red going in the background. Okay, so I think the source of the light is going to be like right behind these trees here. So I'm just going to kind of come in here, just kind of just click around. Okay, now that I have that, maybe I lower my opacity down, kind of come around a little bit more. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Let's lower this opacity down. Just kind of There we go. And let's lower the opacity just a little bit more. This kind of fades out. There we go. Alright, now that I have that, I really want to erase kind of where this is at on the trees. Okay, so now I want to erase kind of around the tree area. So I'm going to grab my eraser tool right here. Probably need to increase the size of that eraser tool. Let me zoom in, Control plus plus to zoom in. And then I can kind of see right here where I'm at. Now if I turn that off, I won't be able to work on that layer. But right now it's kind of hard to see where the tree is around here. So what I can do is I can lower my opacity way down so I can kind of see like where this tree is. And I can like work on erasing this tree right down here. This is the first one that I'm going to erase right here. Let's go ahead and just erase this one. Layer mask might be okay to do too right here, but there we go. Just kind of erase that all the way down into there. Now let's grab onto this branch right there. Follow that all the way down. Alright, that looks pretty good for that one. Let's make sure that I erase this, what's behind this tree too. Maybe I need to lower my brush size a little bit for this guy. So I'll kind of start up here, kind of come down and around. Same thing right here, just following that branch right there, kind of come up and down. And then just kind of erase this area right here. Alright, this tree right here too. So I'll erase that. Erase that right there. This kind of comes down and around right there. There we go. Let's erase this area in here. Okay. Right here, we can kind of come down. Kind of erase that. There we go. So I don't know that, I undid that because I don't know that I want to erase. I think that there's a little bit of light source kind of peeking through there. Perfect. This doesn't have to be exact either. Just trying to get this as close as possible. It's the light source behind this tree, probably behind this one. But maybe not behind the one behind there, so, oops. Okay, so now that I have this, I'm going to zoom out. You can see if I increase my opacity on this, it doesn't look that great around there, but I think it'll look okay once I apply this layer mask. So I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to apply a layer mask, which is coming down here, and I need to click on this. It like kind of looks like that. Click on that. Make sure that this switches over here to white and black. It does. And then I'm going to go to Filter, Render, Clouds, and then that kind of makes that, and then Filter, Render, Different Clouds. You can kind of see how that breaks that up a little bit. And then now I can kind of see where my opacity is at on that. But that just kind of, we're just kind of creating like a mist almost, where this light source is. Okay, so I really like the way that these clouds look, but I think I need some clouds over here too. So I'm going to click on this brush. I'll actually create another layer right here. Got this brush, and just like before, I'm just going to kind of, oh, let me increase the opacity of this thing to 100%. We'll go like 90. Kind of have this mist kind of come down here. I think I want my guy to be really right around here. So again, I'm going to make this kind of area pretty big, and then we'll kind of have it just fade out. So kind of, okay. Then just like before, now this time rather than using the eraser tool, I'm going to use layer masks, which you'll see are going to be a little bit easier to use. But it's a lot of different ways to do this. So, alright. So I got that. I lowered the opacity on here just so I can see what I'm doing. Then I'm going to use the pen tool on this layer. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out this tree right here because I do want the fog to be behind this tree. Okay, and then I can just do mask. Oh, I meant selection. Click OK, and then I can just hit delete, and then it'll delete everything out of there. Let me click again. Let's do this tree right here. I'll just kind of follow along this tree. There we go. Again, let's close that out. Hit selection, click OK, and then hit delete. Click on my selection tool to get out of that. Let's do a couple more trees right here. Maybe we want those guys to be in the background, but I think I want these to be in the foreground right here. So, excuse me. Just going to kind of follow this down with the pen tool right there. Gonna come up. This guy bends a little bit. There we go. Alright, selection, click OK, hit delete, and then finally, let's get this guy right here and that guy over there. So I'll use the pen tool. Again, in the last time I did this, I used the eraser tool, and the eraser tool kind of works. This time I'm using the pen tool. The pen tool also works. So there's lots of different tools in Photoshop that can be used. Not necessarily one tool is better than the other, although I do prefer to do the pen tool. I think it's just a little bit quicker, but that's my preference. Gonna come up here. Again, I'm not tracing out the whole tree, just kind of the area. There we go. Just kind of the area where I have this blue smoke. Now I can increase the opacity of that blue smoke right there. And then I'm going to create a layer mask. So I'll click that button right down there. Then I'm going to go to make sure that this is white and black. Then I go to Filter, Render, Clouds, Filter, Render, Different Clouds. There we go. So I kind of got that going. Maybe I can lower the opacity of these a little bit. And I think my monster is going to be coming right out of there, so that's pretty good actually. Maybe I like the, yeah. Let me go step forward there. Lower the opacity down just a little bit. Here we go. Let's see what I have the opacity on that one set at 59. Maybe lower it down to, there we go. So my monster is going to be kind of walking out of this area. So yeah, I like that. It's kind of a blue fog in the background. Alright, so now I want my light to be kind of right in here. So I'm going to grab my brush tool, and I have my hardness down. Let's make the brush kind of want this to be really bright, kind of like coming right through this tree right there. Okay, so that looks good. So let's kind of grab this. I'm going to select a very bright kind of blue color right there. And I'm just going to go ahead and I'll kind of make the focal point like maybe like right there. I gotta first create a new layer, drag the new layer on top, got my brush, increase this opacity all the way up. Okay, and I really like that. So I want this to be really bright. So I'm just going to click my mouse a couple times right there to make that really bright. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to create a new layer on top of that. I'm going to increase my brush size. Increase my brush size right there. And I'll just kind of make this, and I'm just going to click once, and then maybe lower this opacity down just a touch. Just a touch, not too much. And then I'll create another layer, and I'm going to increase this brush size again. Whoops, not that big. Just want it bigger than the last one, kind of like right there. Click again, and then I'm going to lower the opacity of that layer down too. There we go. And then I'm going to create one more layer, I think. Increase the brush size again, not that much. Kind of like right there. Centered on there, and then lower the opacity of that. So you can kind of see how it's building, right? So we have this kind of outer glow with the opacity kind of set the lowest, okay? And then we have the middle, kind of, and then the next layer, and then my inner layer right there. So it should kind of, this layer right here, we might want to lower the opacity down a little bit on that one. So it really focuses in on that. Alright, kind of like that. Alright, so you can really see that the light source is like right in there. Have that thing set at 100, maybe a little bit less than 100. There we go. Perfect. I like that. Okay, so this looks good. I'm just going to go ahead and pause the video right here. We're going to call this part one of a two-part series. So if you got this far, you're about halfway done, and I'll finish this up in part two. Okay, so let me know if you have any questions.